I know this video is going to be a bit different from a normal one, but I play a lot of games and I've reviewed the B-movie once, so that basically makes me a game reviewer, and you cannot disagree because my logic makes complete sense. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Bible adaptation of modern gaming, that being LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Keep in mind this isn't LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga because it's not being released, but when it is released I definitely will review it because I'm excited to play it. Side note, this is the first game I do ever remember playing as a kid, and I have a lot of nostalgia towards it, therefore objectively making it the best game to exist out there, and you can't argue with that. However, before we get into this banger of a review, I just want to say please do consider liking it and subscribing, because we're going for 100 subs. Also, while you do that, please turn on the bell notification to notify when I upload, because every video I make, I edit myself and it takes forever. That's why I'm uploading every Saturday, and it would mean a lot if you could do that. So, with that said and done and out of the way with, let's get into the review. So the first section I want to talk about here is the story, and it's based off the first 6 Star Wars films in the timeline, as the game was only released on 6th of November 2007, meaning Disney hadn't actually bought the IP for Star Wars yet from George Lucas until like 2014, I want to say it happened, I'm not sure. And that's why the sequels aren't included in this game, because they just weren't made yet. So do keep that in mind when going through this review if you're wondering where those movies are. With there being 6 movies, they had to split them up in some way, so they did it by splitting it into 6 key moments, adding up to 36 total story missions. And this is a lot of content, and these missions mainly focus on space sections, boss battles, and even this mission, but I'll get more on that one later. And no 2 missions feel the same, and I love this because you're playing as a variety of characters, such as like blaster characters like Luke Skywalker when he's in his Fallen Boy attire, or even Dooku with his bent lightsaber and Force lightning. The first mission, called Negotiations, is probably the most memorable missions of them all because it starts the movie franchise as well as the game, and we see the most iconic duo team up to escape a Trade Federation ship, and that's about it. But it's memorable because it's required to either continue with the Phantom Menace or start an entire movie that you want. That's one thing I do love about this game as well. Once you've completed this mission, you can play the movies in any order and basically form the Skywalker timeline as you please, which is really cool in my opinion. And throughout the game, you realise that there are no voice lines and voice acting as a whole just doesn't exist. So characters have to get around key plot points by doing certain actions. So when Darth Vader is confronting Luke and telling him that he's his father, well, instead of telling him, he has a picture of when he was Anakin and points at Padme, his wife at the time, and then points at Luke saying, oh yeah, this is, you are my son. So instead of, it's like telling a story without words, and it's like comedic effect at the same time as like a really funny way of getting around it with like no voice lines. And another scene involving Vader is like when he becomes Vader after his battle with Obi-Wan, instead of screaming this, he just loses it and breaks everything in his surroundings, and this is to show us how fuming he is about what he's done, and it's accomplished nothing. The last mission in the game is the final battle in the original trilogy, where it's Darth Vader and Luke versus the Emperor. Well, it's not really, it's blowing up the Death Star too, but still, shut up. And in my opinion, this is one of the better fights in the game, but it's not the best, and I love this fight because it requires teamwork, so when Palpatine decides to use his Force Lightning on one player, he starts to become distracted, so the other player must strike him while this is happening. And then he starts jumping all over the place like a madman, and you rinse and repeat this formula until he's defeated. The final thing I want to mention about the story is about episode 3. So, with it only being 6 missions per story, they've had to skip over a few key scenes like where Obama and his squad go to stop my granddad, and another one where Anakin just becomes psycho for no reason as it seems, but if you have seen the movie, you do know why he turns to the dark side, and that's basically because he sees some deep stuff in his dreams, and it's not looked over in the movie, it's just represented in this scene here. And that's like the LEGO adaptation of it, because you can't really show the original without voice lines. I can't think of a way anyway. So that's been it for story, and we're going to move on to the next section. Now we're going to be moving on to the next section of this video, which is the missions and the layouts. This doesn't mean that all missions are great though. There will always be that one mission in a game that no one likes, and for this one, for me, it's going to have to be Gunship Cavalry for the story missions. Here, I'm not including the bonus ones, and you'll understand why in a minute or two. But this does contrast with better missions in the game, as my favourite boss battle is the Battle of the Heroes, also known as Obi-Wan vs Anakin, because in co-op you work with your friend and then at the end you are forced against your will to fight to the death. The game was cleverly made so if you jumped into the lava you'd respawn with the hearts you was previously on, meaning that one of you has to win, and there's no escape, and one must win, one must die. It's a tragedy against your best friend, but do what must be done. Whilst playing the story missions, you'll see 10 of these little white things, and they're called mini-kits. So collecting all 10 in a level will grant you with a little micro version of a vehicle that is in that level or related to that level. So there's 36 main stories, meaning that there's 360 of these to collect, and that means there's 36 micro builds, and that's what I like calling them, and they're all displayed here in this little gallery outside of the Mos Eisley Cantina, which is cool in my opinion. And it also grants you with a gold brick, which there's 160 of those to collect, and that means 36 of them are finding 360 mini-kits, which is a lot more than you think. In addition to this, in every level you will find a red Lego brick, and they grant magical powers and are called extras on the pause menu. They're basically like in-game cheats. And this could be from making enemies drop studs, which is the currency in the game, or being invincible. However, there is one extra that may be too overpowered, and I wouldn't recommend using it unless you think you are worthy of playing as God himself. This extra is Super Gonk. It turns the best character into something more omnipotent than it was before. Right, so as I mentioned before, I didn't include bonus missions in the mission segment, and that's because I'm including it here. Let's get the negatives out of the way first. The worst mission in the game by far has to be the pod racing original, because of the goddamn timer. Why does it exist? It makes as much sense as Rey being a Skywalker. Also, the other bad level I'd consider is Gunship Cavalry, the original, and this is because they were ported over from the original LEGO Star Wars game, because if you didn't know, the complete saga is 2 LEGO games put in one, and they remade 2 of the levels, which was Pod Race Original and the Gunship one, and that's why I don't like the original version. The Pod Race in the game is fine, it's the original that I don't like. But apart from that, the bonus levels are actually pretty fun. One of them is young Anakin committing war crimes against droids, another is to watch a trailer to unlock Indiana Jones, and the other 2 are to beat the heck out of everything until you earn 1 million studs, which you don't even get to keep at the end, but you do earn the gold brick. Speaking of which, gold bricks are something you can earn throughout your playtime in LEGO Star Wars Complete Saga. There's 160 of them to collect, and the way you get them varies depending on what tasks you can do. So, as I mentioned before, if you collect all 10 mini-kits, that's a gold brick earn. If you play a mission for the first time, that's another gold brick earn. Playing the bonus levels, as I've just mentioned as well, gold brick earn. Getting the max amount of studs and becoming a true Jedi in every level, that's a couple of gold bricks earned. And there is the way of buying them from the store, and you can earn gold bricks from that way as well. Whilst playing this game, you'll need to unlock 128 characters that span between episodes 1 to 6. The most favoured characters from this part of the timeline are actually here, such as Jar Jar Binks, Tan Wee, or even a beach trooper, who represents me on a day-to-day basis. And for heaven's sake, even Indiana Jones is here. He's not even a part of the Star Wars universe. That's how many characters there are in this masterpiece of a game. So with a vast variety of characters comes a ton of death sounds, kind of like the Roblox oof, but so many of them. If you haven't played this game, the death sounds can put a smile on your face and take this game from 9 mini-kits out of 10 to a full 10 out of 10 mini-kits. Whilst on the topic of death sounds, the best one in the game is this. This is the most recognisable sound in the game, just because of how stupid it is. Because, it's just Yoda's battle cry, it's not even his death sound. When he was on Dagobah just trying to take a nap, he did not make that noise, but you see where the joke is. And the only other death sound I personally think is hilarious is Jango Fett's, because he says, "Yaw yeet." Once you've purchased every single character, including the bounty hunters, you can unlock a room outside called the Bounty Hunter Room, because that's what I'm going to call it, and Jabba the Hutt lives here, and this is a room where you have to search out 20 different characters for 20 gold bricks. So you do this by playing as every bounty hunter, except Jango Fett, rest in peace, and this is 20 more gold bricks on top of the 160 you can unlock. So 1/8 of these gold bricks come from this section alone. And each mission lasts at most 3 minutes in length, and they do get a bit repetitive, which is the only downside to these bounty hunter missions. But I digress, and that's all I can really say about this section. And this review as a whole, because LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga is one of those games I have a lot of nostalgia for, as I mentioned, because it is what's really introduced me into gaming. I know it's a bit of a it is a game aimed for children, but I don't care. I've loved this game and I've completed it to 100% a few times. And the only reason on this gameplay I haven't is because of those blue mini kits. I cannot be bothered to do them again because it takes so long, and the amount of YouTube guides you need to do it, it's ridiculous. That's another thing, but I digress yet again. But as I've said at the beginning of this video, if you have stuck around to the end, it means a lot to me, and do consider liking and subscribing, because this video has taken me a while to make, especially with this long script that I've wrote. And yeah, I don't really know what to say. This bit isn't scripted, I'm just improvising. And yeah, so if you're new around here, do subscribe, and turn that bell notification on, because it means a lot. We are going for 100 subscribers, and we're so close, like really close. So it would mean a lot if you did do that. And I've been Theo Fitzy, so I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.